We talked about the products, their benefits, the portfolio. But how to easily manage the whole residential installation? Does the site admin or integrator always need to go on site to change the resident's name on the display of the intercom? To answer all these questions, we have Wojta. Welcome, Wojta.
Thanks, it's great to be here.
So Wojta, you are an accounts manager and an ambassador for My2N. And what does that second role really mean?
My2N ambassador really means to be the voice of those who matter the most for us, which would be our customers. So my role is to get a feedback from our customers and feedback from the market and provide sort of a bridge, if you want, between them, our customers, and us as the company that's supposed to bring them the solution, and to make sure that the feedback is properly translated, so the solutions that we have today are better tomorrow, and they properly reflect the actual need of our customers and of the market.
So it looks like you're the right person to talk to about My2N with. Let's start with an easy one. What is the My2N cloud?
My2N is a cloud-based platform, as you pointed out correctly, for a communication and administration, which is what I would say what it technically means, but what it means for our customers is that it's a solution to make their life easier, whether it's about administration of the site and administration of the system, or whether it's about the setup of the communication of for devices on the site.
And we have one more guest, Christian, a technical specialist for My2N, who's here to show us just how effective it is. Welcome, Christian. What are you going to show us?
Hello. Today I will demonstrate an initial setup of a small apartment building with one intercom at the front door, 5 apartments, and up to 4 smartphones in each apartment.
Wow, we don't have much time, Christian.
No worries, I will be done sooner than you finish the interview with Wojta. I will just create a site, assign the device to it, and set up the calling.
All right, well, let's see. You can check your screen from time to time whilst you work. Back to you, Wojta. Can you tell us a bit more about My2N in more detail?
Sure. Well, My2N is a relatively comprehensive platform. So I think that what you can turn it into are, in fact, 3 points. One would be the communication, then configuration or administration, and the last point would be the access control. I would probably start with communication. Most of the people think that My2N is mostly about mobile video when it comes to communication part, which is not true because mobile video is a relatively small part of the whole service. Mobile video allows you to receive calls from your intercoms, from your visitors on any type of mobile device that you have, be it tablet or mobile phone. The second part of that communication, however, is simply the fact that as an installer, you have a very easy job through My2N to make the whole system that you're installing to call in between each other, which is very easy. So whatever kind of end device you have through My2N, you can very easily call to that device.
So I understand that I set up calling between intercom and smartphone in My2N, but why should I do it for answering hardware units?
That's a really good question. For mobile device, you have no other choice because that's what the cloud is there for. But doing the configuration for hardware answering units as well in My2N makes the life of our installers significantly easier. And the reason is that you don't need to remember, if you're an installer, you don't need to remember a lot of things that normally you need. You don't need an authentication proxy, you don't need to remember a firmware version, you don't need to remember a SIP account because My2N does remember all those things for you. All you need to do is just put those 2 devices, the hardware answering unit, as you said, and intercom into My2N. And it's the platform that does all tricks for you. So that just saves your time as an installer and helps you to be a lot faster with the setup and installation.
I see. And what's the second part, administration?
That would be administration, yes. So My2N allows you to manage the users, manage the credentials. You can, of course, add users into the installation. You can delete them. You can manage their credentials as well. But perhaps what I would say is there are, again, 2 parts. One would be the remote administration, which is mostly about the management of the users, as I said. But then you also have a remote configuration, and those things should not be confused, let's say, because aside from the management of the site, which I was describing before, the My2N also allows our installers to very easily, securely, and quickly access every single device that they have in the installation and get into the web user interface of the device anytime that they need to do some, let's say, more advanced configuration that My2N itself doesn't necessarily allow them to do.
So in other words, when a tenant moves in and you need to change the name on the IP Verso touch display, you don't need to go there. Christian, could you show us such a change?
Indeed. I just need to open a different site, choose the correct intercom, change the call settings. Now I can change the name, and once I click Save, the change will be immediately shown on the device's display.
This is the typical setup that you will do in My2N, by the way, so you can do troubleshooting as well. You can add the devices, delete them. You can work with users the same way. But this is, as I was saying before, this is more of a administration of the site, which is what My2N is a very powerful tool for. But on the other side, you also have a remote configuration, which you can understand as a secured gateway that allows you, as a system integrator, in case you need to do a setup on a device level. It allows you to quickly and more importantly, securely access those devices and do whatever sort of configuration you need to do there. What is good to mention is that the remote configuration, thanks to the quick access that it allows to our devices, it serves not to the administration or configuration purpose, I would say, but you will see many customers who are in fact using it commercially as a very clear advantage in their business, because part of their business might be providing these service level agreements to their customers. And the faster and the more easily they can access the site, they can access the device and do the maintenance, troubleshooting, whatever needs to be done there, the better it is for them and the more competitive service level agreements they can offer to their customers. So it's definitely not just about making their life easier, as I was saying. It's definitely also a clear commercial advantage that My2N brings them through the remote configuration.
Okay, well, I must see that. Christian, sorry to interrupt you from your main task, but could you show us one click to the web interface of the intercom?
Sure, let's have a look. I just go to the device, open one of the devices, and after a couple of seconds, I am presented with the web interface the same way as in the local network.
Impressive. And the last part was access control, right?
That's correct. So last part is access control and its place within the My2N. I have to say that the access control part is still pretty much at its beginning in My2N, and we really talk about RFID and PIN. Of course, we're already planning to add Bluetooth as well as a third type of credential, which compared to the whole portfolio of access control credentials we have is of course just a part of that. But at the same time, we feel and we see that in residential installations, this is what covers a vast majority of what our installers and end users as well on those sites are looking for, the cards and the PIN.
Sorry to interrupt, but I'm done. The whole site is configured.
You made that incredibly fast, and we even interrupted you 2 times. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Christian. Just to clarify, Vojta, you can do all of this in the web interface of products. Could you tell me the relationship between 2N OS and My2N?
Wow, that's a really good question, yeah. So the 2N operation system is a very, I would say, extremely, in fact, powerful tool. You can do a lot of things there. You can do automation. You can create a lot of use case scenarios relatively easy. It's a very powerful tool. But at the same time, especially when you look at the residential installations, those installations tend to be, I would say, relatively straightforward when you compare it to other types of projects like commercial and government and so on. So what we felt is really that to make the job of our installers easier, so administration and configuration, they don't need to necessarily use such a comprehensive system as a 2N OS. So that's why My2N allows them to do exactly what they need to do, even though it's, I think I can say it's just a fraction of what 2N operation system can offer. But even this fraction, the way that My2N is designed today, even this relative fraction, as I was saying, still covers a vast majority of the cases and things that they need to do on site, which for us mostly, when we talk about the benefits that we bring to our customers and that My2N brings to them, even though that the way system looks today, it still saves 90% of the time that they would usually need for the installation. Plus, they don't have to travel anywhere. They have a easy, secure access to our devices. They have the same access to the site. And it's just something that I can do from home office, and they don't need to necessarily travel to their customers to do most of the stuff that they usually need to do, which is, as I said, managing the users, credentials, changing the configuration of our devices.
Well, that sounds like an argument to use My2N in the next project. Go to my2n.com and start using it today. Thank you, Vojta.
Thank you for having us here.
And thank you, Christian.
You are welcome.
It was a pleasure. Jacob, what do you have for us next?